came into the room and she's like, look at my phone. And then I couldn't see it, so I had to look at mine. I'm like, oh.
Yeah, it's going to be a good game, but I can't bet against Tom Brady. I have the Bucks winning 31-27 and Tom Brady going to his 10th championship.
Aaron Rodgers and his people were like, they listened to our episode and they said, hold our cheesehead or coat.
Donovan Mitchell, who right now looks to be a superstar.
Just amazing. And I don't care what the Red Sox got for trading Mookie Betts and David Price. The Dodgers, in my opinion, win it. I don't have to see what players they gave up.
Yeah, that's not just the Chiefs. That's Andy Reid. He knows the defenses so well because he's such a great offensive mind.
Well, you said you can't bet against Tom Brady, and as a Cowboys fan and what I just did last weekend, I am not going to bet against Aaron Rodgers.
It was a great series. Game 4 was one of the best games I've ever watched in my entire life.
It just goes to show the offense for the Dallas Stars could not keep up. And when the defense needed to step up, the Lightning's offense just overpowered them.
Chris Paul is one of the most underrated players of all time. He's been the best player wherever he goes, and that includes with the Rockets. Yeah, Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl. I mean, that's all I can really say. There's 2 of the top 5 players in the league, and they are very, very good.
Yeah, and I really think the Clippers' chance to win the championship was last year, and they were up 3-1 against the Denver Nuggets.
Hello, I'm Taylor Hearn, and you listen to The Outsiders' Opinions with Kevin and Austin.
What's up, y'all? Welcome to our 40th episode. Let us know what you thought of our last episode as we reviewed the All-Star Game events and made some comments about how the All-Star Game can improve, as we didn't think it wasn't a great game, so make sure to go check that out. Also, we've recorded over 40 episodes, so let us know what you think. What's your favorite episode been? And then today we will be doing another NBA Power Rankings, and I'll let Austin start it off.
Yeah, so like normal, we'll start at the bottom of the list and go through all 30 teams. For the 30th team, they're very injured right now, and while they have a center that's playing outstanding and almost won the skills competition, it's just not going right for this team, and it's the Orlando Magic. What do you think about them, Kevin?
Yeah, like you said, they're injured. They're not really playing so well as they have, I believe, are on, I think you may have said it, losing 8 straight. Vucevic is big, but I definitely think it's not a time to trade everyone. I think next year, when people start coming back, they can definitely rebound. And it's not looking good for Fultz right now because that's the guy they traded for, and it's not panning out.
Well, I mean, Fultz's whole career has just been a tragedy story. He's been injured after injury after injured. But like you said, I definitely believe that it's not time to just tear it down. I hate when teams just are like, oh, not doing good this season. We just need to take away our entire future. I definitely think, and when everybody gets healthy, definitely have a great chance of making a run. However, this is just not their year, and we have them at 30th. Do you want to mention the 2019?
Yeah, at 29, we have another team that's also injured. I think the big guy is Christian Wood, and that is the Houston Rockets, and a team that was forced to trade their star. What are you thinking about them right now?
Yeah, I mean the Rockets, they have Victor Oladipo, they got Kevin Porter Jr. Both of those players are playing well, but I mean without Christian Wood, their best player, it's just hard for them to get things rolling. They've lost oh they've lost so many games in a row, 16 to be exact. We just have them above not Houston. We have them above Orlando because I don't feel like they have as many players injured and as significant players injured, and I feel like they get to grow players like Kevin Porter Jr. and their younger guys. Like they also got Justin Patton who's starting at center, so they get to work out some new guys, unlike the Magic who just have to roll with Vucevic and Terrence Ross and other healthy elder players to help get everything rolling.
Yeah, it's been a tough first year for Coach Steven Silas, but I think we can move on to number 28, and I'll let you introduce him.
Yeah, so at number 28, we have a team that um, they had to get rid of Blake Griffin. They had to buy him out. They are currently the lowest seed in the East, and that is the Detroit Pistons. They also have a lot of young players that are doing well. That's another reason why I have them above these other two teams, despite the fact that they have a worse record than both of the teams we have above them. Uh, I mean, it's just about players like Sadiq Bey. Uh, he's playing very well. Dennis Smith Jr. is kind of getting over a little bit of a resurgence right now. Josh Jackson's starting to find his own. Miles Plumlee's playing, not Miles Plumlee, Mason Plumlee's playing very well for the Pistons. And so we get to see players like Jeremy Grant. They're growing. They're growing. I feel like they're moving in the right direction. Unlike these other two teams where they're not really injured, so they're just getting better. And I think that's more important at a power rankings level, not just to say, oh, this team has a worse record, or we just be saying what the standings are. It's our opinion on how the team is moving forward, how we feel like they are compared to all the teams they're going against. And I definitely feel like the Pistons are better than the two teams we put them below.
Yeah, and I think the big reason of trying to buy out Blake Griffin is so that the young players like Jeremy Grant, Plumlee, can really excel and get time to grow. It is sad that because they were very active in free agency as they signed Jeremy Grant, they signed Plumlee, but they let Christian Wood go. So that may be mistake that they are that haunts them while they sleep or something. Uh, I'm not sure. Do you want to move on to number 27?
Yeah, I feel like we've talked enough about the Pistons. So at number 27, they have a rookie playing outstanding right now. Uh, they had an upset game against Portland Trailblazers recently, and that's Minnesota Timberwolves. What do you think about them?
Yeah, that guy you were talking about is Anthony Edwards, a very good pick, and he's been starting to get his legs and playing well. Um, I also thinking this is a team that does not need to sell; they just need to build. Sadly, they don't have their first round pick. I believe it's with the Warriors, but I think maybe they just need time for Anthony Edwards to get used to Russell and Cat to get better themselves with each other, and maybe they can make a playoff push next year. Even
Yeah,
though
and
I thought they were going to do it.
Yeah, Russ has been out so far a good bit of the season. Finally, Cat's back and he's growing. The reason we have him right here is probably the reason. I mean, the fact that they won that game against Portland. Anthony Edwards had 34 points, and he's looking like he's finally coming into his own. And while I don't think he's been even a top two rookie this season, he's definitely proven that he was a worthy top selection. So I feel like we can move on to 26, uh, where we have the Cleveland Cavaliers. This is a team that I either just got Kevin Love back or is about to get Kevin Love back, and they're finally moved back into 12th place above the Wizards because the Wizards have also lost a good bit straight. What do you think about them?
Yeah, the Cavs, another team that I think they're trying to go young and rebuild. They're definitely in a good direction as they have Jared Allen, as they got in the trade between James Harden. They are trying to look to get rid of Drummond, which makes sense. I was really shocked when they got Jared Allen and like they also have Drummond. But I'm also wondering, I think Kevin Love's a good veteran presence, and he's a guy that's been to the championship with the Cavs, so he can help install culture. We saw Sexton, I believe the last time we were doing this episode, he had just beaten the Nets. So I think that's an important thing. So I think it's definitely looking up, and hopefully they can hit on more selections in the future.
Yeah, Kevin Love. Apparently he's played in their last two games, but last game he like hurt his leg again. He's supposed to be out against the Heat. Uh, that was the game. I think was yesterday. No, that's today. Yeah, the game was today. The game's today against the Heat. So I mean, they're losing some players, but like you said, they're trying to go young anyway. And there's definitely improvement between Garland, Sexton, Okoro. All these players are getting better, so we definitely have them above the teams below them. Do you want to say 25?
Yeah, 25, we have the Sacramento Kings. The Kings, a team, it's really tough right now in the West. There are so many good teams. They're at 13. They've lost the two games, and I believe they were shopping Harrison Barnes. They do have some young players like De'Aaron Fox, and I'm not really sure they have Buddy Hield, but it looks like they might just need to think about their choices in free agency and learn from that. What do you think?
Yeah, so they lost a heartbreaking game against the Hornets last night, but I mean the Hornets are just on fire. They obviously aren't really contending for a playoff spot. I guess they kind of are for that 10 seed, which could find its way into the playoffs. But like you said, the West is so good right now, that's going to be hard for any team at the bottom of the West to make any movement upward. Uh, Buddy Hield has kind of digressed, and I'm kind of sad to see it or regressed. He may need to be moved so that he can see his true potential. But Fox has been playing well, and Tyrese Halliburton, I think, is the best rookie in this class. So they definitely have a future that looks up, even though Marvin Bagley last night fractured his hand.
Yeah, that's definitely a sad thing, and I think we can move on to the number 24, where we have the Washington Wizards. As you mentioned earlier in the episode, they have lost 4 straight and are not looking well, not not playing well. But Russell Westbrook looks to be playing well, even though it's not really helping his team right now. It's definitely a good sign. Definitely from seeing what they gave up for him, it's good to actually have a guy on the court, as John Wall the past few years was just injured, and it's definitely good that they have Bradley Beal. I'm wondering if I think they can definitely make a playoff push, as the East isn't as competitive as the West, especially in those lower rankings of the standings. Maybe they can make the play-in tournament and they can make some plays. I'll let you take over.
Yeah, so with star players like Bradley Beal and Russell Westbrook, and Westbrook's been playing so well as of late, I definitely think they're vying for that 10 seed, even though they've lost 4 straight. They play some hard teams. Brad and Davis Bertans have been out for some of those games, so I think it's important to realize that while Russ has been playing well, he hasn't had a full cast of characters around him to help win games, and they've been close against the Bucks in their last 2 games. One game Brad didn't play in; they probably would have won that game if he did. Last game they did, and they lost by 11. But like you said, the East is much worse than the West this season, especially at the bottom rank. So I definitely think they have great potential of getting a 10 seed. So number 23, we have the New Orleans Pelicans. This is a team that's wildly inconsistent, and they destroyed the Clippers. But I mean, I don't really know what to make of this team. What do you think?
Yeah, inconsistent is the perfect word for him, as they got blown out by the Timberwolves, not a very good team, and they blow out one of the best teams in the West, and a team that looks really well, better than I expected. But they do have some stars. They have Ingram, they have Zion, and they have some nice supporting characters. Lonzo, I think, was just on fire from three against the Clippers. But it's something I don't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, maybe next year. But it's definitely good to see Ingram and Zion just balling out. But it is Van Gundy's first year, so I'm not sure. I think he's implementing some good things, as on the broadcast in the Clippers game, I heard them mention how he went to Ingram and Zion said, "This is what you need to do," and that's a good thing from your coach. So I guess it's looking like a good hire right now. What do you think?
Yeah, and to perfectly show how they're inconsistent, they're 5-5 in their last 10. They can't decide whether they want to win or lose. So they're definitely better than the teams that we've already stated. But like you said, it's all going to depend on their young players, and Stan Van Gundy's going to play a huge role in the production of wins or production of losses. So I think we can move on to number 22. Do you want to
Yep,
mention it?
yep. At number 22, we have the Oklahoma City Thunder, a team that is definitely not worried about playing right now, but they are getting some good thing. I think Shy playing well is really good, and they did beat the Mavericks a few games ago. I think it was the second game from All Star break, or second game after All Star break. Horford is playing well, and I definitely think they're going to maybe trade Horford, maybe not this year, but next year. And I think George Hill. So that can just even add to their boatload. And I think they got a second round pick, as they made a swap with the Pistons. I'm not sure about the player, but I'll get to you while I'll research that while you talk about the Thunder.
Yeah, so the Thunder are playing a lot of young players: Lou Dort, Moses Brown, Isaiah Roby, Justin Jackson, Darius Bosley, uh, Poku. I don't know how to say his name really. I think it's like Alex Pozievsky or something like that. He had 23 points in the game against the Grizzlies, and helped them push for a win, and they ended up winning. They're 6-4 in their last 10. And they're starting to play better, but like you said, they're probably going to move their older players like George Hill and Al Horford after this season, or maybe into the middle of next season. Um, do you have the stat?
Yeah, I got the trade. It was Pistons acquire guard forward Hamidou Dio from Oklahoma City. I am so sorry about the mispronunciation. And then the Oklahoma City Thunder got guard slash forward Sivi Mia Julianic and a future second round pick. So that was the trade I was talking about earlier.
Yeah, so I mean, they made so many moves last offseason, and they're definitely trying to rebuild for the future, but they're still trying to win. I definitely think they're vying for that 10 seed, especially because of how far the Grizzlies are falling, and that perfectly leads us into the next game, the next team where we have the 21. We have the Grizzlies. They've lost three straight. They lost against OKC 128 to 122. Their defense isn't playing as well, and with players out, I mean, it's starting to look a little bit wary for their chances of making that 10 seed. What do you think?
Yeah, I've definitely been surprised with how well, like, they're inconsistent. They're not playing really well a lot, and like you were talking about, they might not be able to make the 10th seed. I think John Morant is definitely having a more difficult time than he was last year, as he's trying to figure out ways. And I think it also hurts with the supporting cast. I think Jackson Jr. is a huge detriment of him being injured. What do you think?
Yeah, that definitely does not help the development of any of their young players for that matter. So having players out is a issue that a lot of teams are facing, and with a shortened schedule, but a lot of games bunched together, it does make it subjected to injuries. But every team's going through that right now, so they definitely need to find a way to get either their bench players to play better or play the stars more minutes and get them to perform throughout the entirety of the game. But the Grizzlies, they have been doing that over their last three games, and that's why we have them at 21st.
Yeah, and I think we can move to number 20, where we have the Toronto Raptors, who are playing in Tampa Bay right now. So maybe they get that. Maybe they can go on a run, but they haven't been playing well, as they have lost. They have lost five straight. They're trying to figure out center, and I think they're a team that could go after LaMarcus Aldridge, because the Spurs are definitely shopping him. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I definitely think that's a possibility. They need another big man, especially one that's experienced in going on long playoff runs like you did with the Spurs and the Portland Trailblazers. Um, so yeah, but I mean, honestly, the Raptors just need to get that DNA. They've already been there. They don't need experience per se. They just need Kyle Lowry to lead that locker room, Fred VanVleet to lead that locker room, Pascal to lead that locker room, and their players who haven't been there before help show them how to be a winning organization, which they have been recently. They need to prove that it wasn't just Kawhi, which I don't believe it was. So I mean, it's going to be hard for them in the future because they don't have a Kawhi type player anymore, but they still have an experienced roster with a good head coach and Nick Nurse. But like we said earlier, they've lost five straight, and Nick Nurse isn't leading his team to the right. Uh, obviously, isn't doing the right things right now, and their team is just falling apart. What do you think about that?
Yeah, definitely, because I think their last year's playoff run showed that it wasn't all Kawhi. But I think losing Marc Gasol and Serge Ibaka are huge, like two great defenders and two big men. So I think that definitely goes to support your point of they just need some veteran guys like LaMarcus Aldridge. I think we can move on to the next team, where we have the Pacers, and it was just great to see Karis LeVert back. He's definitely going to help this team, but just um, outside off the court, him getting rid of that kidney, a mass on his kidney, just a good thing from the trade. But I definitely like how the Pacers got him, and I think he'll be a huge thing because he really stepped up for Kyrie Irving last year when Kyrie Irving was out. So I think that is something we may have forgotten about with his absence, and that's where he made a name for himself. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. So I mean, the real thing is why we have them this high compared to the teams below them. Why we have them at 19 is because Karis LeVert is back, and we believe that that is a huge it's a huge vote of confidence for us in his play and his ability to help this team win games. Even though they're 3-7 in their last 10, they are 1-1 with Karis LeVert. They beat the Suns, which is a very, very good team in this league. So I mean, we're just gonna have to see how they play against other teams, and we got to give him time. Like you said, he's only been back for two games, and they lost last night against Denver in a back-to-back. So I mean, it's going to be tough, but I definitely see them moving forward being a at least contender for that 8 seed.
Yeah, and I think we can now move to the Bulls, which the guy to think about the Bulls is Zach LaVine, who's just been playing well. He's really gotten much better as his 3 point, even though he didn't do well in the 3 point contest as I wanted him to. But I think it's definitely a good thing. However, I think they just gotta find ways to support him or get more players to support him offensively and defensively. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean Zach LaVine's had an amazing season, and um, the Bulls have kind of gone with him. They are now vying for that 8 seed. They are in ninth right now, and they would be playing against the Pacers to play the 7 versus 8 winner in a game to decide who makes the playoffs. But like you said, Zach LaVine needs help. Wendell Carter Jr. is playing well, but I mean the rest of their team is say it's really give or take. Patrick Williams has played amazing so far. I think he's a very underrated rookie because he's more of a defensive asset. But I mean the Bulls are going to be a team that I don't feel like goes far in the playoffs, and even if they do become an 8 seed, if they play the Sixers or Nets in the first round, they may win a game and Zach LaVine can go off. But they are moving in the right direction, and their future is bright.
Yeah, now we can move to another team, to the next team, Warriors, who they're just injured, but Curry's doing great. It's good having Draymond Green back, and I think James Wiseman's a good. He's shown good signs, even though I think they did move him down from the starter to the bench because I think Bazemore is a better fit. I don't know if they've changed that situation, but I think that's a good sign. What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, I think that the Warriors are another team that's mildly inconsistent. They play well and beat the Jazz, and then lose to the Lakers. They're 4-6 in their last 10. And like you said, the Curry's just trying to get him fired up. He's a great player, obviously, and one of the best uh, shooters in the league this season, percentage and accuracy wise, and the amount of attempts he takes. But like you said, James Wiseman probably been moved to the bench, but that's probably for just trying to get more minutes at the Kent Bays more and more, the more experienced guys, because they're trying to make a run, obviously, even though they're injured, like you said. Draymond Green is essential for the success, and it's not just scoring; it's everything. It's passing, defense, rebounding, and honestly, I feel like he really brings the team together. He is their fire. Even when Curry was trying to get them riled up against that game where they're getting destroyed, I feel like Draymond's return really makes it where they can get everything going when they need to. But it's going to be hard. Again, like we said, the West is so good that a 9 seed Warriors team. I mean, I really don't see them making any sort of run that is consistent with what we've seen them when they're fully healthy. So I feel like we can move on to the next team. At 16, we have the Atlanta Hawks. And what do you think about their new coach?
I think they're on a win streak right now. They've won, I believe, 5 games straight. So that's definitely a good sign. As they were a team that was really hot, and then they just hit that. I think they lost like 10 games in a row, and then that led to the firing of their coach. I think it's a good move, just because they're a team that made a lot of moves in the offseason, signing Rondo, getting Gallinari, getting Bogdanovich. So it's definitely that's why I think the coach was fired because we gave you all these good players. We're trying Trey Young's playing better, and they were just not playing well. I think they're a team that they should definitely be in the playoffs, and they would just make it at number 8, but then they have to face the Sixers. So I think they're a team that can move up in the standings and do well in the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I feel like the coach, this is their win streak of 5 games really proved that it was the right move to fire Lloyd Pierce. It was. Because now their coach has really led them to a lot of wins and a lot of wins in a row when they really needed at the bottom of the East. Uh, it's been interesting to see how their team's been playing lately because, like you said, they went on that hot streak at the beginning, and then they went on this cold streak, and it led to the firing of Lloyd Pierce, and then we went to the All Star break, and we really didn't know how everything was going to turn out. But it really took a turn for the best. And I think it's going to help them in the future. And I think they're a team because of how well they can shoot and how well John Collins is playing and how well Trey Young's playing. And if they can get great contributions from Gallinari, Rajon Rondo, some of their more elder players, they could potentially be a team that can upset. Uh, it's gonna be an interesting team, especially because of how many points they score. I definitely see it as possible, but Nate McMillan, their coach right now, has definitely got them moving in the right direction.
Speaking of moving, I think we can move to our next team at number 15. We have the Dallas Mavericks, and there's definitely a lot of trade ideas swirling about Porzingis, but I think it's definitely something we've started to see him play better. But I also want to talk about Josh Richardson. I think that was one of the guys we said was the biggest addition in that trade with Seth Curry. As Josh Richardson, I think that trade symbolized what the Mavs are trying to do. Seth Curry's a great shooter, but we want to be good on defense, and that's what we've started. I think Josh Richardson, because of COVID, got like hampered, got prevented. That COVID prevented Josh Richardson from doing what he is doing from what earlier in the season to doing what he is doing right now, which is getting steals, and he can also attempt shots. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, Josh Richardson didn't play particularly well last night, but again, that win he had that when they had earlier in the week, he was an essential part to that victory. It's really been that was against the Nuggets, right?
Yes, yeah,
Yeah.
he got like two
So
steals.
yeah, he played well defensively and offensively in that game, and I think he is the catalyst for this team because Luke is going to play well. We know that most likely every game Luke is going to be that player who performs not necessarily scoring every night, but he'll get a good bit of assists, he'll get his rebounds, he'll play competently on defense, and he'll always bring a spark. And we expect at least hope because of the contract that KP, like you said, starts to play better. But if they can get Jay Rich to play well, I feel like it'll get the team to realize, hey, we're moving in the right direction. We could be a team, especially because of how many good teams are on this in the West. If they can get to the playoffs, I mean, anything is possible in this Western Conference uh, playoffs, especially if, like I said, Anthony Davis gets injured and he's out for the playoffs, or another big player gets injured. I feel like the Mavs could really make some uh, really destroy some playoff brackets if Jay Rich can start to play well. What do you think?
Yeah, I kind of want to go. We talked about Josh Richardson. I kind of want to talk about Porzingis. As Porzingis, I'm gonna say I don't think it's a really bold take. I don't think he's ever gonna play an 82, a full NBA season. I think you need to start doing what they did on against OKC the second night, right after the All Star break. They had just beaten the Spurs and they sat KP, and then he's starting to play really well. But I'm wondering if you think that's the right move. And I think maybe in this stretch we see KP sit, and I don't think I see we see him play many back to back games. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm fine with that for KP. I just didn't agree with the fact that they sat Luca. I feel like you need to still put out a roster that you feel like you can win with, and I don't think the Thunder are a team that you can put out Luca and Porzingis lists and expect to win a game. And I don't even think they played shy in that game. And even if they did, there's no reason to sit Luca as well. If you're gonna sit Luca on the ninth the KP plays, in my opinion. Brunson's another player that we haven't talked about yet, but he's played amazing this season. He's another catalyst for their team. And while they haven't, some Mavs fans aren't as happy as how KP's health is going. I definitely think it's important to realize that if you believe in him, I don't think you should trade him. If you don't believe he'll stay healthy for an extended period of time, then yes, I agree that trading is probably the way to go. But like I said, if you believe in him, which I believe the organization does, there's no reason to trade a player that you feel like can win championships with you, and that's the type of player that KP can be.
Yeah, I just wanted to get your thoughts on that. And Brunson is a good pick. And then I believe in KP. There are going to be some times, but I think you gave up a lot of for KP, so I think just let it run its course. But I think we can move on to the Knicks. It's great. We've had great transitions right now as the Knicks got rid of KP, and they've definitely made a lot of moves. They got R.J. Barrett, Julius Randle, but they did have a controversial call against the Nets. But it's definitely a team where I did not expect them to be this good, and it's a very good thing to see as it seems like they have some good potential right now. What do you think?
Yeah, like you said, none of us expected him to be in the playoffs. Our prediction, which you can go check out in one of our earlier videos, which will probably be linked in the comment section, is a video where we made a lot of wrong predictions, and one of them was the Knicks. If we would have done the entire bracket, I probably would have had them at 12th. I thought they were making improvements. It wouldn't have been a 15 seed. I definitely didn't expect them to be horrible, but I didn't expect them to be the playoffs, obviously, and they weren't in my prediction. Another team that will uh, that we I think already got to. No, we haven't got to them yet. Is the Spurs? They're another team that I should have had higher, but I mean that's neither here nor there. Like you said, the Knicks had a controversial call, but they were coming back against the Nets, and I feel like it really shows that there may be a rivalry in New York soon. They have stars on both sides. Julius Randle's really becoming coming into his own, and if Kevin Durant stays out for an extended period of time, I think that any team could beat the Nets in the playoffs. They need Kevin Durant to come back, and we'll get to their rankings soon, but it's definitely heavily affected by the anticipation that Kevin Durant comes back fully healthy and ready for the rest of the season. What do you think?
Yeah, it's definitely looking good for New York, both teams, which is shocking. I don't think that's happened since while we were alive. Both teams playing well. So I think we can move on from the Knicks to the Trailblazers, who I believe CJ McCollum is coming back tonight against the Pelicans, and that would be a definitely good thing. Um, but Dame Lillard is just amazing. I think he might be a dark horse MVP candidate. What do you think?
Yeah, and while I agree with that, I don't think Dame's stats result in wins. I think CJ is the most important person on the team. I think we've seen that in a playoff series against the Nuggets, Game 7. CJ is the one who takes over. CJ is the one who gets the ball in his hands. CJ is the reason why they won. Um, they lost their last game against the Timberwolves of all teams. They almost lost the game before against the Timberwolves, and that's no knock against the Timberwolves, but it's an expectation of great teams in the West or top 6 teams in the West, like the Trailblazers are, that they beat teams like the Timberwolves. And without CJ, they just aren't the same team. Don't you agree?
Yeah, I definitely agree, and that's an interesting take about Dame not ultimately resulting in wins. While he does make some good plays, I definitely agree. CJ is another guy, and I think then Carmelo Anthony can do what he wants, but I think Nurkic is really hurting him. So I don't think they can make as deep of a playoff run as I thought they would with Nurkic being injured.
Yeah, so I think we can move on to the next team, which is number 12, the team we were just talking about, I think 2 times before this when we were talking about the Knicks. The Spurs, another team that we should have had in the playoffs, and neither of us did. So we both don't look the smartest, but they're definitely playing well. They've won some games recently without DeMar DeRozan, who's out with personal reasons. They also plan on trading LaMarcus Aldridge, or they may have to buy him out. I think they'll be able to trade him. But it's interesting. Pop has them in a great spot. I definitely believe that they're contenders in this conference, especially because they don't turn the ball over and they play intelligently. They play great defense and they know how to move the ball around. They get a good bit of assists. DeMar doesn't turn over the ball as much as you would think for players averaging almost 8 assists, and he's definitely should have been an All-Star candidate in my mind. So he can go prove it by making a run in the playoffs. What do you think?
Yeah, I think definitely your point about them just being making intelligent plays. I think that goes to speak about Pop, and I just forgot about the Spurs. They're just a team that's under the radar, but they're really good. They just have such a good sticky defense, as I like to call it, and that just goes to show Pop. And Pop being the coach can, I think, they can totally wreck up this. They can totally destroy this playoff bracket. They could definitely make a run, in my opinion. DeMar DeRozan's kind of a guy who's, I think, because of that, they can just share the ball. They also have Patrick Mills, uh, or I may have messed up that name, but Mills, and he's a good defender, so they can just definitely make some good plays. And they're shooting a lot of threes, and they make them. Any more thoughts?
Yeah, so they would play the Suns in the first round right now if they do stay as the 7th seed, which would be an insane game. That would be so cool. That'd be a great series between veteran players like DeMar and Chris Paul, who both not won a championship. So I mean, it's going to be the competition between great teams and great coaches, and I'm really excited for these playoffs, especially in the West. I anticipate them to be great, and that's why we have the 7th seed in the West right now at number 12. So that just shows not only how we feel about the East, but also how we feel about the West, obviously. So I think we can move on to number 11, and this team is on fire. They won last night. Gordon Hayward, poster De'Aaron Fox, and the Hornets won. What do you think?
Yeah, the Hornets are definitely a team that surprised me. LaMelo Ball turns out to be a great pick. Gordon Hayward, I was a little nervous about that signing, but he's been playing out. He's been playing well just because of Hayward's injury concerns. But while on the court, he's definitely great, and probably a definitely good veteran presence. And any more thoughts on the Hornets?
Yeah, so I'm gonna give. I think everybody needs to give major props to Michael Jordan, and here's the reason: he was a GM, and he was bad, and he said, "This is not my calling. I'm going to hire a GM, and we're gonna win," and he was right. He bet against himself as a GM and bet for himself as an owner, made the right decisions, and here we are. The Hornets look like a clear-cut playoff team. They are a half game out of the 4 seed into having a home playoff series, and they may honestly be dark horse contenders. They have shooters in Devontae Graham, LaMelo Ball, Malik Monk, all playing outstanding. Cody Zeller is holding down the center position with PJ Washington as his power forward. Miles Bridges and Gordon Hayward are the two forwards that can excel. I mean, they have great players. Caleb and Cody Martin are great grinder players. They just work hard. They get steals. They don't turn over the ball. They make passes. They get some points and not too many points, but they get rebounds. I mean, this I have no qualms with this team. I think they could be a dark horse. Like I said, they're tied with 2018 with the Celtics. Both of them are 2018, and the Heat are 2018. They're like I said, a half game out of the 4 seed. They're 4.5 games out of the 3 seed. So I definitely think they could make a run in the playoffs, especially if a team's injured. Especially if Kevin Durant doesn't come back in the 1 seed. Especially if Embiid doesn't come back in time. I know these players are expected, but I'm saying if something happens and they get re-injured, or something happens and they don't come back in their intended timeline, the Hornets could another team that could mess up some brackets, just like the Spurs and just some other teams we mentioned. What do you think about that?
That's definitely a interesting take, and reminds me of our NBA power rankings before this one, where you talked about the Lakers. Maybe if AD doesn't play, he gets out of the first round. So make sure to go check that out. But it's definitely an interesting thing about what you said about Michael Jordan. It's that just shows greatness, and in my opinion, he's the goat. And now it just going, yeah, it's not my calling. I'll get someone else. I wish an owner, maybe in a Dallas Pro Sports team, would do that. But that's just me dreaming. But it's definitely good to see they definitely are in the playoffs, and they could make. Hayward is a huge guy, and I think him being in the with the Celtics, he was kind of overshadowed. But when he left, and you're seeing it now with the Celtics, that kind of left a big absence. But I think we can move on to the Celtics, where Gordon Hayward did come from. They lost him. They definitely were in a very bad stretch. It seems like they're getting better. Tatum is great, but I think they're just missing one guy, and I think that's because of Hayward's absence. What do you think?
Yeah, I also feel like it's Al Horford's absence. Al Horford's been playing well for the Thunder, but they don't really have a center, and let alone a center that can stretch the floor a little bit and make some threes when needed. The Celtics, we have them above the Hornets because I trust that Tatum and Brown and their roster with Kemba and all these players are better. But the next power rankings may be different. They had the same record. I right now, spontaneous thought, just think they're better than the Hornets. I definitely hear the argument from both sides. It's really coming down to coaching. Brad Stevens, I believe, is a better coach, and the organization has just proved lately that they are the better team. But we'll never know. I definitely expect them. They were supposed to win the East this year. A lot of predictors had the Celtics winning the East, or the 76ers, or the Nets, one of those three teams. And right now, the Celtics are faltering behind those other teams. And it's going to be interesting to see when the playoffs come around if they can make a run, or maybe they found their first round against a team that they definitely should not have lost to.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. I they've done well in the regular season in past, but I want to see them do well in the postseason and make a deep run. Maybe go for the championship and win the East. I think they definitely need to make the Eastern Conference Finals this year.
Yeah, and they have made the Eastern Conference Finals a couple years. 2017, they made it last year. They made it in 2018. Three of the past 4 years they made it, but the difference is they haven't got to the finals. They need to take that next step, and I think it would be great for the growth of Brown, Tatum, and all the young players that they got there. But I don't really see it right now, especially the way they're playing. it's close between them and the Hornets. I'm giving the props to the Celtics just because of their track record recently, but it's going to be close between those two as we go along in the season. Do you want to mention number 9?
Yeah, number 9, we got the Nuggets, who did lose to the Mavericks, but Jamal Murray's not been shooting well. I'm not sure if I'm not sure about how well he did in the win, but that's something they need to. I definitely think this is a team that can make deep run. Michael Porter Jr. is a guy that we need to watch. What are your thoughts right now?
Yeah, I'd probably have them higher if they had Jeremy Grant still. They'd probably be probably the 1 seed in the West, to be honest. Uh, it'd be I it, I it's tough that they couldn't re-sign him, but because they have Jokic, because they have Murray, because they have MPJ, it's going to be hard to count them out of the playoffs. They're definitely one of the better teams in the West, and I definitely expect them to at least win their first round series, even if they play against the Clippers, because the Clippers. I mean, they lost against the Nuggets the last time. I mean, the Clippers have a lot to prove. We'll get to them. They have to win before I say they're going to, because every time I pick them, it seems like they just have gone against my prediction. So I mean, it's going to be tough. The Nuggets are a great team, and I don't think anybody can guard Jokic. They can slow him down, but they can't really stop him. And that's all I got on the Nuggets. Do you have anything else?
No, I definitely agree about Jeremy Grant. But I think we can move to the Heat, and the Heat are a team that just definitely didn't start out well, but I think they're starting to round into form. I definitely was very high on them, and they're going on a run right now as they have won their last 4. But I definitely think they can cause trouble again like they did last year. But I'm not sure if they can make the finals this year. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, so the whole top of the East, the top 4 teams are either 8-2 or 9-1 in their last 10. The Heat are 9-1. They're on a 4 game win streak right after a 5 game win streak they had previously, or maybe it was longer. I don't even know. But yeah, they definitely started out poorly, and they really rounded into form. Jimmy Butler's starting to shoot better from the field and from three, and he's really carrying their team. Bam didn't grow as much as I thought he would, and I thought he would really show uh, his ability from the 3 point line, but he really hasn't gotten that part of his game out. But they still have 3 point shooters like Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson and players like that. So it's important for them to realize their potential, and they're definitely supposed to go back uh, and at least make it to the second round. It's sad when a team that went to the finals last year loses in the first round. But I definitely expect them to make a run. Their team is close to the Celtics and close to the Hornets, so they definitely need to make sure that they can stay on these winning ways. But they've proven it so far this season as they came back from a terrible start, and they definitely can get it rolling if they continue how they're playing right now.
Yeah, and definitely agree with what you said. I'll let you introduce the next team because I think we can move on.
Yeah, definitely. So we have the Clippers next. They're a team that I just mentioned earlier that they have to prove whether or not they are who they are. I thought they would win the West this year, and I just thought they would be playing better. They lost to the Pelicans. They got destroyed by the Pelicans. Like it wasn't even close. And that was the game that I'm losing hope. They're 4-6 in the last 10. I expected them to be at the 1 seed right now, at least a 2 seed, and right now they're the 4 seed. They're only 2 games above the 5 seed, and only 2.5 games above the 6 seed. 3.5 games above the 7 seed. So I mean, they have a chance to move down far. And if they do, I'm going to lose hope for them in the playoffs too. And you may see by the time we get playoff prediction time that I don't pick them to even win a round.
Whoa, that's interesting. I've definitely said interesting, but I'm just wow. Um, I definitely agree. They're not. I thought last year was the year. Sorry, I'm just words are hard. That was the year that they should have gone, but I was definitely surprised by the Nick Batum signing. I totally did not know he signed with them, but he's been a good player. But I think inconsistency is something Kawhi has talked about. You've talked about with like them getting blown out by the Pelicans. So I don't really. I want them to make the playoffs, but I'm not taking much note what they do in the regular season because they were incredibly good last year in the regular season. But when it came playoff time, they didn't do it. So that's something to definitely watch in the playoffs and something to listen to when we come and make our predictions in the playoffs. Any more
Yeah.
thoughts?
No, I don't have anything else, but I'll let you introduce the 6th seed or 16.
Yeah, and that 6th seed, we have another team who I think they're good in the regular season, not doing well this year, but definitely to pay attention to in the playoffs, and that is the Milwaukee Bucks. They have Giannis. They also have Drew Holiday, but a team that just trying to do their best, and I think Drew Holiday and Giannis are starting to get to blend together. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's honestly, again, another team that's just disappointing me. Um, I thought they'd be better than the Sixers this year when everybody thought that the Sixers would be higher. I had the Bucks as a 1 seed. So both of the teams that have it a 1 seed are just disappointing me right now. But the Bucks are playing well as late. They've won 9 of their last 10. They've beaten my favorite team, the Wizards, in back-to-back games by I think 9 in the first game and 10 in the last game. No, 11 last game. Yeah, I think so. I think they won 134, 125, and 133, 122, something like that. But it all comes down to Giannis. We need to see some of those step back threes he hit in the All Star game and the actual game. Maybe those would actually get him uh, people to actually step up on him and make him uh, or try to prevent him from shooting. But it's hard for me to see them moving far in the playoffs if Giannis doesn't play how he does in the regular season. He was a MVP the past 2 seasons, and it hasn't resulted in any finals appearances. I mean, last year they didn't even get it out of the second round. They got almost swept by the Heat. Yeah, they busted my playoff bracket last year, and I'm starting another team that I'm starting to lose hope in. And again, another team that if they play the Hornets in the first round, I'm telling you right now, I would not want to be the Bucks.
Another take, and I definitely agree. The Hornets are playing well, and the Bucks aren't doing it. And Giannis has definitely showed well, getting back-to-back MVPs. But what can you do in the playoffs? He hasn't really shown that. And by the way, you are correct with the Wizards and Bucks. The Wizards did lose by 11, and then I think the Bucks are a team that could definitely go to the finals. But if they don't, then there's going to be a lot of trouble stirring because Giannis just signed that big extension. Maybe he signed it too early after they made that Drew Holiday trade. But I think we can move on to our next team. I'll let you introduce them.
Yeah, so at number 5 we have the Los Angeles Lakers, and while they beat the Warriors in their last game, they are not doing well in their last 10. They have a below 500 record at 4-6. Um, Another team that's disappointing me, but I understand. This one team I understand. They have Anthony Davis out, and you heard my prediction before. If they don't get him healthy by the time of playoffs, I definitely don't expect them to win a playoff series, especially because of how good the West is, especially if KP is healthy and the Mavs get the 8th seed, or if it's the Spurs, they'll play great defense. But I think the Lakers will get him healthy, and they're playing it intelligently by not getting him back yet. But they need to make sure that they stay uh, playing the way they are, even if they get him back, just playing that great defensively. And I think Davis is a great defender, so I mean he will add to that. They lost Jared Dudley to a season-ending MCL tear, but I don't think Jared Dudley plays all that much, so I don't know how much that really affects him. Maybe it's just a locker room thing. They want to do it for him, so maybe that's inspiration. They see a player get injured and they're like, "Hey, he's out for the season. Let's do it for him." I don't really know what to make of it. What do you think?
Yeah, I think in the absence of Anthony Davis, we've definitely seen Kuzma play really well, definitely offensively. I wonder if when Anthony Davis comes back, if he can keep up that offense. But Anthony Davis out really hurts their defense, and it really hurts LeBron. LeBron is defying crazy things at the moment, but still, Father Time's undefeated. I'm sure it's going to conquer Tom Brady, and I'm sure it's going to conquer LeBron. So I think you want to rest LeBron, and if he's having to play a lot, just so you can stay in stay in the playoffs and have a high seed in the playoffs, that's something that worries me and could come back to bite him if they lose the playoffs. And also, if Anthony Davis he's out another 2 weeks, that it's going to take a while for him to get into form, and this isn't a guy you can wait on when because he's probably the best partner LeBron has had in his career, and he's a huge part to the Lakers' success with LeBron. What do you think about that?
Yeah, and it's going to be hard for them, like you said, if they don't get Anthony Davis back like a month before the playoffs start. Because, like you said, it's going to take him a good bit because he's been out for so long to get back into shape, to get back into NBA playing form, especially because he's not been shooting the three ball well this season, only at 29.3%. He's not been having the best rebounding, the best defense, the best point scoring. I mean, and that was before he got hurt. So, I mean, it's going to be interesting to see how he plays in the playoffs, especially if they don't get him back in time. But I think we can move on to the next team.
Yeah, the next team is the Utah Jazz, who were just on an incredible hot streak, but they're not playing as well. But they're definitely a team who I think Mike Conley's playing well, Donovan Mitchell's playing well, and they definitely have Rudy Gobert. And let's say the Jazz meet the Lakers in the playoffs, and Anthony Davis came back a little bit late. Going against Rudy Gobert, that's going to be a huge thing for the Jazz, and a bad thing for the Lakers if Anthony Davis isn't in shape. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, definitely. Any defensive center will have an easier job against a player that's already been injured and recently hasn't been able to come back to full strength because of the time he's been out and the amount of time that he had to get back into full shape. And we have them at 4, even though they have the best record in the league, just because of the loss to the Warriors and the fact that they're 5-5 in their last 10. They're middling right now, but I definitely believe that they'll get it back. And while I don't really expect them to be the 1 seed, they'll definitely, in my opinion, be a top 2 or 3 seed. And I feel like they'll be a hard team to beat because they're a team. They don't rely on star players. They rely on a team atmosphere. Joe Ingles is playing very well. Bogdanovich is playing very well. They have players that are all contributing. Royce O'Neal's playing well. So I mean, if all these players continue to play better than most people expect, I feel like it'll be easy for them to at least win 1 series and make it hard for any team they play in the second round.
Yeah, and I think now we can move on to the third team where the East makes a return, as we have the Philadelphia Sixers. And the Seth Curry trade has just been great for them. It's really given them a sense of offense. I am worried about Embiid because Embiid was just playing so well. How can Ben Simmons handle with this team? But I think Danny Green and Curry really help um, give him shooters, which can weaken the opposing defense as they're afraid of Simmons driving, but you have some great shooters. So definitely a good trade between the Mavs and the Sixers. What do you think?
Yeah, so Green and Simmons are both tremendous defenders. Uh, Tobias Harris is scoring right now pretty efficiently, and like you said, Seth Curry is shooting very well. I thought Joel Embiid would win the MVP. I thought he should win MVP, and as long as he gets back in time, I think he will win MVP. The thing is how when he comes back, knees, especially with older players, not older players, but taller players and players that don't have the best knees. He's already had injury history for his entire career, including in college, and we saw that with Porzingis. He hasn't had as many games played because of his injuries. So if they can't get him back, again, they could falter. They could become a lower seed. But right now, we just believe that they will get him back, and they're playing well right now. They won against the Spurs. They destroyed the Spurs, 134-99, which wasn't even close. And even though DeRozan was out for the Spurs, Embiid was also out for the Sixers. So I mean, I guess it evens the playing field a little bit. And well, I definitely see them as the best team in the East right now, besides the team we're about to get to.
Yeah, and before we get to them, let's go to the Suns. Speaking about our predictions, which we will leave in the comments. Um, I did not have them making the playoffs. I'm deeply regretting that right now. But Chris Paul has just been amazing. While I think it has helped Devin Booker, I think the biggest thing is with Aiton. I think Chris Paul really helps Aiton as he can give him those dunks and just help Aiton grow. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I like that opinion because Devin Booker is more of an ISO type of player. He plays like Carmelo, he plays like Kobe, he plays like Michael Jordan. They're players that normally don't you don't get an assist from them. They score their points are unassisted normally because they don't shoot, they don't catch and shoot, they don't catch and drive, they don't catch and fade, they don't catch and make a dribble pull up or something like that. Uh, but it's going to be like you said, it's going to be Chris Paul. Chris Paul is going to lead this team. He's been the best player on every team he's ever played on, in my opinion. Even that includes the Harden teams. I've told you that before. And it's going to be can he lead a team again? He played very well with OKC the year prior, and it's going to be how will these younger players do in their first time going to the playoffs? How do you feel about that?
Yeah, that's definitely a good question. I think they can make a deep run in the playoffs. I think we saw what Chris Paul was able to do with the Thunder last year, and I think he has a better supporting cast right now in the Suns than he did with the Thunder. And if they got some high seeding, they may face some good teams. But I think they can definitely win and prevail between the combination of Paul and Booker. But I think we can move and make our big announcement of number one. What do you think?
Yeah, just one more last thing on the Suns. I think the Suns will be the one seed in the West. That's why I have them at number one. I think the Jazz will probably fall to two, and the Lakers will stay at three, and the Clippers will stay at four. That's really just how I think the things are going. But yeah, we can make the announcement on number one, and this really just has to do with the fact that, like we said, we anticipate the return of Kevin Durant. We anticipate him playing well like he normally does, and we anticipate the additions of Blake Griffin and other players will help them go over the edge. And we have the Nets. This may be a popular pick, and I normally don't like to do popular picks. That's why I have the Suns at number two. That's why I have the Jazz at number four, and that's why I make the certain things I do. But I definitely feel like this is the best team. What do you think?
Yeah, the Nets did just hack Blake Griffin, so they have an incredible offensive lineup when Kevin Durant comes back. They also have Joe Harris, who's just balling out right now at three. I think he's having a career year. But my worry about this team is the inside, the chemistry. How does KD, Harden, and Kyrie work together? Who's willing to give up the ball is the better question, not who wants the ball. And that even becomes more prevalent with Blake Griffin. So I'm also worried about their defense. While they do, I think Jordan's a good player. Um, I think they can play well, but when you're facing a lot of good teams, especially the Sixers, because I think the Nets are definitely we haven't been in our championship at their bust, but that was without Harden, and now they just got Blake Griffin, so they definitely need to make the championship, or it's definitely a lost season in my opinion. What do you think?
Yeah, definitely. I would be surprised if anybody on the Nets would count it as a win if they didn't at least go to the finals.
Yeah, so that's our second NBA power rankings. What do you think? We definitely spent some time talking about all the teams. So I hope you enjoy this listen. And for our next episode, Austin and I will be going to college, and we will be talking about March Madness bracket. So get ready for that as we are in March, and it's about to get pretty crazy. So we're gonna give our thoughts on that in next episode. So definitely pay attention. And since we're entering into college, let us know. Share with your friends who may be in college and they don't really pay attention to the NBA. We really appreciate it. Leave a like, comment, and email. Feel free to email us at outsidersopinions2020 at gmail.com.